Hello everyone, and welcome. Take a moment with me, if you will, to step back in time. Close your eyes and think about the world as it stood on the cusp of 1960. It was a time of quiet confidence, of post-war prosperity, of families gathered around the television set, and Sunday drives in gleaming chrome automobiles. But then, something shifted. The gentle hum of the Eisenhower years gave way to a roar. The quiet confidence exploded into a vibrant, sometimes turbulent, energy that would reshape society forever. The decade that followed, the 1960s, truly was a tale of two eras, a period that began with clean-cut hope and ended in a blaze of revolution and profound change. In this journey, we're going to travel back together. We'll explore the sights, the sounds, the tastes, and the unforgettable feelings of daily life during this extraordinary, transformative period. For many of you, this will be a walk down memory lane, a chance to revisit moments that shaped your lives. For others, it's an opportunity to truly understand the world your parents, or perhaps even your grandparents, grew up in. So settle in, as we open the door to a decade that truly changed everything. As we stepped into 1960, a wave of youthful optimism swept across America. A new generation was taking the reins, embodied by the charismatic figure of John F. Kennedy. His presidency, often romanticized as Camelot, filled the nation with a sense of purpose and a belief that anything was possible. He spoke of new frontiers, inspiring a nation to reach higher, to do more. There was a palpable sense of national pride, of a bright future ahead. Away from the grand political stage, daily life for many still strongly echoed the comfortable conformity of the 1950s. Suburbia was thriving. Homes were the heart of family life, often filled with the aroma of a roast dinner or perhaps something a little more convenient. Remember the culinary marvels of the era? The TV dinner became a household staple, a revolution in convenience. Jell-O molds, in all their shimmering glory, graced many a dinner table. Appliances were designed to make life easier, promising more leisure time for the growing middle class. And what was at the very center of that family life? The television. It truly was the family hearth, the glowing window to the world. Every evening, families would gather, sharing stories, laughter, and news, all filtered through that single, mesmerizing screen. And the soundtrack to this era? It was clean, melodic, and often incredibly polished. Before the seismic shifts to come, the airwaves were filled with the harmonies of the Four Seasons. The soulful country of Patsy Cline, the sun-drenched sounds of the early Beach Boys, and the infectious energy of the girl groups like the Supremes and the Ronettes. It was music you could dance to, sing along with, and feel good about. It reflected an America that, on the surface at least, felt stable, optimistic, and relatively innocent. Then, on February 9, 1964, a single moment changed everything. Four young men from Liverpool, England, stepped onto the stage of the Ed Sullivan Show, and America, particularly its youth, was never the same. The Beatles arrived, and with them, a sonic revolution. Their energy, their mop-top haircuts, their cheeky smiles, it was electric. This wasn't just about the Beatles. It was an invasion. Suddenly, the airwaves were flooded with a new kind of sound, a new kind of attitude. The raw blues rock of the Rolling Stones, the rebellious energy of the Kinks, the explosive performances of the Who, they challenged the status quo. Their music wasn't just catchy, it was a statement. It spoke of youthful defiance, of breaking free from the old guard. America, of course, didn't stand idly by. We had our own musical revolutions brewing. In Detroit, the Motown sound emerged, a sophisticated blend of soul, pop, and R&B that broke down racial barriers and topped the charts. Artists like the Supremes, the Temptations, and Marvin Gaye created timeless classics that still move us today. Simultaneously, a folk revival was sweeping coffee houses and college campuses. Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, and others used their acoustic guitars and powerful lyrics to address social injustices, questioning the very fabric of society. This music wasn't just entertainment. It was the soundtrack to a generation finding its voice. It wasn't just on the radio. It was in the streets, in the protest marches, in the hearts of young people who felt a growing need for change. The sounds of the mid-60s became inextricably linked to the social and political shifts that were beginning to gather unstoppable momentum. While the cultural landscape was transforming, another epic drama was unfolding high above us: the space race. President Kennedy's bold promise to put a man on the moon before the end of the decade ignited a national quest for discovery and technological triumph. It was a race against our Cold War adversary, the Soviet Union, and the stakes felt incredibly high. We watched, mesmerized, as heroes like Alan Shepard became the first Americans in space, and John Glenn captivated the world with his orbital flight. Each launch, each splashdown, was a testament to American ingenuity and courage. NASA became a symbol of what a determined nation could achieve, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and capability. This wasn't just about science. It was about national pride, about proving what we could do when we worked together towards an audacious goal. Down on Earth, technology was also making its way into our daily lives in exciting new ways. Color television, once a luxury, was becoming more common, bringing our favorite shows and the evening news to life in a whole new spectrum. The familiar rotary dial began to give way to the modern touch-tone phone, speeding up communication, one satisfying click at a time. And oh, the automobiles! The 1960s gave us some of the most beautiful and powerful cars ever built. The Ford Mustang, the Pontiac GTO, the Chevrolet Corvette, these weren't just vehicles. They were statements of style, freedom, and American engineering prowess. They were works of art on wheels. But amidst the soaring optimism and technological marvels, the decade also brought profound moments of sorrow and division. On November 22, 1963, the world stopped. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy in Dallas shattered the innocence of a nation. Many of us remember exactly where we were when we heard the news, a moment forever etched into our collective memory. It was a loss that profoundly changed the trajectory of the decade, plunging a hopeful nation into a deep, collective grief. The dream of Camelot felt suddenly, tragically out of reach. While the nation mourned, another critical struggle was unfolding, one that challenged the very conscience of America. The civil rights movement gained undeniable momentum, demanding equality and justice for African Americans. We saw images that broke our hearts and stirred our souls, courageous men and women marching for their rights, facing down prejudice with dignity. We heard the resonant words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, dreaming of a nation where all were judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. This was a battle for the soul of America, fought in the streets, in the courts, and in the hearts of millions. As the decade progressed, a growing shadow began to fall across the nation: the war in Vietnam. What started as a distant conflict gradually escalated, drawing in more and more American lives. For the first time, war was brought directly into our living rooms every night, broadcast on the evening news. Walter Cronkite, the voice of trusted authority, reported from the front lines, and the images were often stark and brutal. The draft meant that young men, your brothers, sons, friends, faced the prospect of going to war, creating deep divisions within families and communities. The growing anti-war movement at home reflected a nation profoundly grappling with the cost and purpose of this distant conflict. In response to the turmoil, and as a natural progression of the youthful rebellion sparked by the music, a vibrant counterculture emerged. Young people, disillusioned by war and societal norms, began to seek a different way of life. They embraced flower power, advocating for peace, love, and a rejection of materialism. Places like Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco became epicenters for this new movement, a kaleidoscope of colors, sounds, and radical ideas. This new way of thinking manifested in defining events. The Summer of Love in 1967 saw thousands flock to San Francisco, embracing a spirit of community and shared idealism. But perhaps the most enduring symbol of the counterculture was Woodstock in August 1969. 3 days of peace and music. 500,000 young people gathered in a muddy field in upstate New York, creating a legendary moment of unity, music, and a shared philosophy. It was a cultural watershed, a defining statement of a generation. This burgeoning counterculture, of course, led to a profound generation gap. The values of the youth often clashed dramatically with those of their parents, many of whom had lived through the Depression and World War II. Disagreements over the war, over music, over social conventions created friction at the dinner table and beyond. It was a true clash of eras, a struggle between tradition and transformation. And nowhere was this more evident than in fashion. The early 60s saw elegant beehive hairdos and crisp suits, but by the end of the decade, long flowing hair, bell-bottoms, and the revolutionary miniskirt had become symbols of freedom and self-expression. Psychedelic patterns and bold colors burst onto the scene, reflecting the adventurous spirit of the times. And then, in July of 1969, as the decade drew to a close, the world watched, holding its breath. The promise made by a fallen president nearly a decade earlier was about to be fulfilled. On July 20th, Neil Armstrong stepped out of the Apollo 11 lunar module and onto the surface of the moon, uttering those immortal words. "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Do you remember where you were when you heard of this historic event? For that brief, shining moment, a deeply divided world united in awe and wonder. It was a shared human achievement, a testament to what we could accomplish when we dared to dream big. The moon landing, coming at the end of such a turbulent period, felt like a beacon of hope, a reminder of our collective capacity for greatness. The decade that began with the bright optimism of Kennedy's New Frontier concluded with its literal, breathtaking fulfillment. But the world that watched that tiny black and white image of a man on the moon was utterly, irrevocably different from the one that had entered 1960. The 1960s, a decade of dizzying change, of soaring highs and profound lows. From the clean-cut optimism of Camelot to the chaotic energy of Woodstock, from the sound of surf rock to psychedelic anthems, from black and white conformity to a riot of color and self-expression. It was a period of awakening, of questioning, of demanding more from our society and ourselves. The reverberations of the 1960s are still felt today. Its music still defines genres. Its political shifts continue to shape our discourse, and its cultural impact remains undeniable. The battles fought for civil rights, the questions raised about war and peace, the very idea of challenging authority. These were seeds planted in the 60s that continue to blossom and evolve. It was a decade that truly changed everything, laying the groundwork for much of the modern world we inhabit. For those of you who lived through it, thank you for sharing this nostalgic journey. For those who are just learning, we hope this offered a glimpse into a truly extraordinary time. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What is your strongest memory from the 1960s? Perhaps a song, an event, a personal story? Please share your thoughts and memories in the comments below. We truly look forward to reading them. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.